That's fine. Go ahead.
So, Sharon, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into dancing? What got you into West Coast swing?
So my husband actually bought me uh he bought me gift vouchers to go to dance lessons for Christmas one year, and I guess it came off the back of we were at an event and there was a live band playing, and I was just like, "Oh, I just want to get up and dance," but I didn't want to dance around my handbag.
Hmm.
I wanted to have a partner. I wanted to like be swished around the floor and be twirled. And anyway, that didn't happen. So I was a bit of a huff. And anyway, he was at like a Christmas sort of party thing and in a hall, and he's seen some modern jive lessons going on, and he thought, I am gonna get that for my wife. And that is what he did. So he started going with me. So we did start together, but he doesn't dance anymore. Um, unless he's forced to. But we started going together and we did modern jive, and we did that for, I'd say, probably about 3 years or so. And I would say, like, you know, and I think this is probably true for loads of people in the UK, especially a lot of people who start modern jive. They maybe go on YouTube and they're looking for other things. And I went on YouTube and I seen a video of Miles and Tessa. Actually,
Hmm.
that was the first thing that came up. I
Was
was
it the one
looking
with
for modern.
Spider-Man?
No, no, it's a really short one, and
Because there was a video that was really popular with Miles and Tessa for a while when I first started. It was I think they were doing Lindy Hop to Spider-Man, and I can't remember what the second song was.
no, no, it was definitely it was no. I can't remember the song, but I do remember that I loved what Tessa was wearing. I just love I liked that they were like in their jeans and they were pretty casual, and it
Hmm.
wasn't all like, it wasn't sparkly outfits. But I saw that, and then that led me down a rabbit hole. So I saw that video, and then I saw Jordan and Tatiana,
Hmm.
and I was like, I don't just want to learn this, I need to learn this. So of course, straight on the computer, Googling West Coast Swing, and there was nothing in Belfast.
Yeah.
So I couldn't
When
find
was
anything.
that? What kind of time period was that?
That would have been around 2011ish.
Hmm.
Maybe slightly before that. And I did come across Lindy Hop. I came across swing, and I thought, well, look, it's not West Coast swing, but it's something else. It's something other than modern jive. I just kind of wanted to learn something different, so I went along to Lindy Hop classes, and I mean, I still adore Lindy Hop,
Hmm.
um, and I remember because in I was quite involved in modern jive, and then I wasn't involved in modern jive. And I remember walking out the door saying to my husband, I promise I won't get involved. I'll just go to classes. I'll just go to classes. And like literally 3 months later, I was teaching it and, running stuff. But anyway, um, I went along to these classes and I was going for quite a few weeks. I loved it. And one night in the corner, and I hadn't mentioned West Coast Swing, but one night in the corner of the room, one of the teachers who had been teaching the Lindy Hop classes was dancing with a girl who was from Canada, and they were dancing West Coast Swing. And I was like, they're doing West Coast Swing. And I was like, you're doing West Coast Swing. Where did you learn this? I need to know. You need to teach me. And it was kind of like, um, you know, it's just like a million questions for them. So anyway, turns out that this was Richard Turner, and he had done West Coast Swing. I mean, from memory, I think he told me he learned some in Seattle. He is an IT guy, so he was over in Seattle for a
Hmm.
while and had learned it over there. Um, and he had actually been running like the odd West Coast Swing class, but it was very sporadic. It was like it was running for maybe 6 weeks and then it wouldn't run.
Yeah.
And he said, well, yeah, there's a West Coast Swing class on a Wednesday night, like, but it's the last week to like tomorrow night. And I was like, what? So I was like, I don't care, I'm coming. So along I went and, did sugar pushes all night or whatever. But obviously transitioning from Lindy Hop to West Coast Swing, there isn't a huge difference. The pulse is a difference, but there isn't a huge difference. Although, you could tell that I did Lindy very clearly when I first started to go to events. But so he did that class and it was like 1 week and I was like, this can't be it. Like, I can't have discovered this for it to have ended. So that was, I'm pretty sure that was winter time. I can kind of visualize it driving, in the dark. So it must have been, in the middle of winter. And by sort of the summertime, he had been in contact with a guy called Shane McKeever, not to be mixed up with Sean McKeever.
Sean McKeever,
But Shane is himself a champion, but he is a champion line dancer. But Shane is on, the Pro-Am circuit and obviously does West Coast Swing as part of the Pro-Am stuff. And he is a phenomenal teacher and he's a great guy. And he's from Newry, which for most people, because I'm the only one from Northern Ireland here, for most people, Newry is like towards the border of the south of Ireland, towards the south. So he was coming up to go to college in Belfast, and this was great news. So I guess Richard had probably bullied him a little bit into like teaching a class. And at that time, I suppose I wasn't heavily involved in like sort of any organization of this. I just kind of went along with it. I thought, this is great. I'm going to learn how to do West Coast Swing. So Shane did come up to Belfast to go to college. He did agree to do classes, but he was busy. Like, he was doing Pro-Am stuff. He was at university or a college course, and he was doing like, I think, performing arts of some kind. So he was doing performances and plays and all sorts of things. So after a while, it became pretty clear that he was too busy to run a regular class. And although I didn't see myself as this then, but looking back, I was very much pushing the West Coast Swing. I mean, Facebook was just becoming a thing. I did not know how to build a website. But I kind of like pushed myself out there, like create a Facebook page and, get a website built and kind of like just create something so that if people were looking for it, at least they could now find it.
Yeah.
So anyway, long story short, Shane couldn't teach one night and he said, look, Sharon, you just teach the class. And I was like, don't be ridiculous. I don't know what to do. And he said, but you're one step ahead of everybody else. So that's all you need to be right now. And, I guess that's true. I had been obsessing about it. More than anybody else would have been at the time. There was definitely people who came to the classes who knew of West Coast Swing probably before I did.
Yeah.
But hadn't, there was just nothing regular. So my aim was to make it regular. And but at the same time, I was also running the Lindy Hop. Well, I can't say running, I wasn't running it by myself. There was a squad of us. But I was definitely one of the people who was pushing that as well. So I was really heading up, pushing Swing Belfast at the time. I was running, was teaching classes. I was trying to start to run social events. So they were kind of, it all was kind of hand in hand. It was like all happening at the same time.
Because Ireland's got quite a good bizarrely country scene, especially compared to the UK.
Not that
There's
bizarre. We love our country music.
Yeah, they love their country over in Ireland.
Yeah.
A lot more so much than the back over on in England.
I would say that scene, it's definitely more Southern Ireland. So so basically where Shane was from Newry. And I think up in Londonderry as well, there's a bit of a scene because I remember going up to like a big line dance thing one time just to try and, do a bit of West Coast swing. But yeah, definitely up Newry, Dublin, and that kind of area, more south of Belfast. There is a massive there's a massive country scene. Now, don't even get me started about like jive. And I'm not talking modern jive. You could go to an event in the country and it would have like 2,000 kids jiving.
Yeah.
Crazy. But hey ho, each to their own.
Yep.
Each to their own.
It'd be nice to see a lot more youngsters coming into the West Coast world over in the UK, but that's another subject for another time.
Yeah.
So how long did it take you to build up to doing a regular class and getting established?
Well, to be honest, the regular classes started straight away. I mean, I was just for having none of it. It was like, if there's not a regular class, you can't build on it. Like it's if you build it, they will come. And I kept just saying that, look, I don't care if I'm standing here with 3 people, as long as people know that every Wednesday night there's a West Coast swing class on. And many times I was standing there with 3 people, many times. And I mean, I would say that to build it to the scene it was, now I'm talking pre-COVID, it probably took about like 3 or 4 years to get like people who were really regular, people who were coming, and I mean, there are still people in our class who have been there from the very beginning. And so I would say 3 or 4 years before it really felt like there was something. And then when that happened, then I got brave enough to go, right, well, I could bring a teacher over, I could bring someone over.
Yeah.
And I guess I'd also started to go to events by that point, because, I'd been watching these events on YouTube and thought, I need to go to something. So I remember the very first event I went to was in Scotland. And I'd probably been doing West Coast swing for loosely for about a year. And I thought, I am the bee's knees. I can't wait to go over here.
It's about 2011, I think, maybe.
This is probably 2011, maybe 2012. I don't
think it was 2012. I think it was 2011. The reason I say that is I remember seeing you there.
Do you? Right, okay.
This would be Glasgow, I think. I think it was Glasgow.
Yeah, it would have been Glasgow.
Yeah. And that's when I think I first met you. And that's when I stopped dancing. Not saying it's like coinciding, but that's when I stopped, not long after that event. It would have been February, I believe. February 2011. And I stopped dancing after that for 10 years. Not saying you did that. Maybe you did.
Well, I mean, it could have been, because that was an interesting event, because so there's 2 sides to that event. One was a very welcoming, like a pocket of people who were super welcoming. Heather Harrison, to this day, still a friend, welcomed me with open arms. Like I was there. There was only the 2 of us there. I mean, it's still quite often only 2 of us, only it's a different person with me. But I knew no one. I didn't know anyone from the scene. I really hadn't had much in a way of actual lessons. I mean, the lessons obviously Shane had done with me, we're talking maybe 12 weeks, 14 weeks of actual lessons before I was then becoming this reluctant teacher. I mean, I didn't want to teach West Coast swing. I wanted to be taught West Coast swing. I was transferring a skill of being able to teach from another dance over to a dance that I didn't know that much about, but knew more than the rest of the class. And that's
Yeah.
it, really. So I remember having been really welcomed, but at the same time having a couple of comments about, you know, oh, where did you learn? And I was like, well, you know, mostly learning from YouTube. And I got, oh, this is going to be interesting. And you know what? It was interesting because I've watched those videos back and it was very interesting. But at the same time, you know, those comments could have stopped me ever going back.
Yeah.
But I also have, you know, such fond memories of that event, of the people who were so very welcoming. And Olivier Massart is one of those people.
I think back then in the UK, back in that period, there was
Yeah.
there was an element of snobbery in West Coast swing a little
Yeah.
bit. I think where
Yeah.
we've got the big modern jive scene in the UK, I think there was
Yeah.
an element of we're better than the jivers that was going on at
Yeah.
that point. So
Yeah.
there was a lot of kind of, well, who are you? So yeah, it was a little bit of a kind of interesting time.
It was
Not
a
as
really tiny amount of people. Now this was not the
it
majority.
was a
I
small
have to say
pocket.
that. It was a
Yeah,
really small pocket.
it's a small pocket,
And
but it was enough to do quite a bit of
but it's
damage,
enough
really.
to but it's a yeah, but it's enough for someone to go, I never want to go back there again.
Yeah, yeah.
However, my personality is more of, okay, so you think I can't do this? Well, I'll show you.
Hmm.
So there's a little bit of that in my personality. It was like, well, okay, I'll prove you wrong. But yeah, I remember, like, it was towards the end of the week. It was like Sunday night. Olivier had been dancing all night long with everyone,
Hmm.
and I could see he was tired, and I was just like, oh, I don't want to ask him. I feel
With his long
I feel
blonde curly
terrible.
hair he had at the time.
No, he did not. He didn't have the hair. It was gone by then.
Was it?
Um, yeah, it was. And I tapped him on the shoulder and I said, you know, would it be okay if we had a dance? You know, it's okay. You know, if you're too tired, it's fine. I think it was making all these excuses, and a Michael Jackson song came on, and he just went, oh, "This is our song," and took me on the dance floor.
Hmm.
And that, I have told him this story, by the way, so he knows this. That saved my weekend.
Hmm.
So definitely, carrying on West Coast Swing has a lot to do with that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you started building up through Facebook, and as it's gone on, you've done the
Yeah.
websites and
So
um,
yeah, I mean, I built up through Facebook, websites, torturing everyone in the Lindy Hop scene to cross over. Like, come on, guys. So yeah, I mean, I did at the time, because I was running Lindy Hop stuff as well. We would quite often have like one room upstairs, which was the Lindy Hop room, and then a room downstairs that had West Coast Swing. So we would have like simultaneous stuff going on. So, or like if there was maybe a salsa night going on, we would run a West Coast Swing night in another room, so that we could expose it to other dancers,
yeah,
and hope that they would come and try it. Um, so yeah, there was loads of that, and then I think after, you know, a good few years, and I'd been to a few more events, I was introduced to Andrew Shellard. Actually, he was the
hmm.
first pro. He was tell that he wasn't the first. Colleen was the first pro I ever brought over. So I had Colleen over, and she did some workshops with us, and that went really well. I mean, everyone loved it. And then I was introduced to Andrew, I think at UK Champs,
Yeah,
and he had done a comp with Naomi, and I think they ended up in Jack and Jill, or maybe did it Strictly Together, and someone had suggested that they teach together. So I
yes,
brought Naomi and Andrew over, and I remember Naomi being very quiet and very shy, and Andrew also being very quiet and very shy. Not when they're teaching, they just came out of themselves,
Mm.
you know, when they start to teach. And obviously over the weekend, as you get to know them, because, you know, they didn't really know me and I didn't really know them, bar just passing them. I'd
Yeah.
had probably 1 or 2 dances with Andrew. Um, and they were great. They were brilliant. And you know, as someone who didn't have a teacher, like I didn't have a teacher, and I need to like say that so many times, because quite often I would go to events, and I was like going to events for years, like 5, 6 years, and I wouldn't even tell people that I was a teacher, because I was so afraid of people to be like, what?
That's
You're
hard
the
as well. That's hard as a teacher. And I've been in a similar situation with, obviously not as remote as Northern Ireland, but when I first started getting into West Coast swing, I had to drive 2 hours, 2.5 hours
yeah,
to get to a class, and then 2.5 hours back on a weeknight with work starting, having to be up at 8. So
yeah,
it was difficult. And when I first started teaching, I was teaching modern jive at the time,
mhm,
and I wanted to do West Coast, and I started learning it. And it was actually Mike Rosa said, "I've got a teacher, Samantha Buckwater, over from the States.
mhm,
Do you want her to do a workshop?" So she came over, done a workshop, and we managed to get some of my modern jive dancers onto it. I think we got about 20 booked onto this workshop. They all struggled, but they loved it.
yeah,
So Mike suggested he comes down and teaches a weekly class, so we had him teaching. And then it got to the point the classes were getting quieter and quieter and quieter, so it wasn't worth bringing him down. And he was like, "Look, take over. You start teaching it." So I ended up
mhm,
teaching this class, and I felt like a fraud. Like I
yeah,
was a dancer at novice points, and
yeah.
I'm not qualified to
I
teach.
didn't even have novice points. It took me
Yeah,
so long.
actually, it was a point I didn't. I don't think I'd even done a comp or anything at that point. But I felt a bit like a kind of fraud of I'm, who am I to be teaching this? And
Yeah,
but I was the first person to do it in Sussex, and in Kent there was nothing. There was the odd workshop here and there, but there was nothing in Kent at that time. Um, and I still to this day I dance in advanced, and I still feel kind of, who am I to be teaching a class? Yet
yeah,
there's teachers out there who have never done a lesson in their life, or very very few lessons in their life, and learn it all off YouTube. So
yeah,
like, from your position, you're out there, you're learning it, you're going and you're doing it. We don't need instructors, especially in smaller communities that are champion level dancers. We need people out there passionate about
yeah.
it.
I think you're right. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, and I've heard, you know, I've heard people like um Sarah Van Drake and Tessa Cunningham say things like, um, you don't need to be the all-star or the champion. You just need to be the person that's passionate. And I still
Mm,
don't see myself as like I'm the teacher. I mean,
mm,
yes, I am the teacher, but I see myself more as a community leader or a community promoter than
yeah.
anything. I mean, after I'd brought Andrew and Naomi over, Andrew had contacted me and then said, look, he had like a thing he had to do with his course where he had to do something, basically come over and do some English speaking stuff, and said, hey, could I come over for a month? I was like, yes, absolutely. And I thought, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm going to have Andrew Shellard come over for a month to Northern Ireland. This is going to be fantastic. And we did workshops, he did classes every week. And he was great. And I thought, right, okay, that's fantastic. He'll go home and we'll bring him back in a few months' time for another workshop. And then when he left, he messaged me and said, I'm going to move to Northern Ireland. And I was like, no, you're not. And, you know, this is the God's honest truth. As someone who was like never getting even into a final of a novice comp, who was trying so hard to push a dance that I just am so passionate about and love. My dream, like my actual literal dream, was I wish someone who was like an advanced dancer or an all-star would just move to this country. And then that actually came true. Now, to be honest, looking back, I kind of think I wasted that wish, and I should have wished for the national lottery numbers, because then I could have spent that money playing all the time. But anyway, wish came true, and Andrew moved over, and I was like, he's gonna live here for like 6 months. He stayed for like 3 years. So I mean, that was amazing. And
what effect do you think that had on the community? Did you see the community grow because of that?
Absolutely. I mean, because I wasn't putting, like, at this time before Andrew came, I was putting all my energy into trying to come up with what was going to be taught, trying to update a website, update social media, think of people to bring over. I was doing everything every single week. And quite often it was to turn up to a class of 8 people. And that was it was soul destroying. But I just kept going. I was like, no, it will work. It will work. So then when Andrew came over, of course, I was then able to concentrate on what I do much better, which is like pushing the scene and pushing the dance. So I put a lot of time and energy into updating the website and updating Facebook and Instagram and creating all these other things to really promote the fact that he was coming.
People don't really realize that as instructors, or like when we run classes, how much work it is. It's not a kind of just turn up to a class. It's all the
you don't just turn up. No.
All the Facebook and now TikTok, and so you've got to be video editing, and it's a crazy amount of work. You could spend like 10 hours a week just the 2-hour class, and then you get to the class and your lesson plan goes out the window because it's a different
every week.
Or you want to put a pattern that involves a whip, and all of a sudden everyone in the class has forgotten how to do whips, and you got to start again with it all. So it's hard work. So spreading it between the two of you, it's
I mean, that was phenomenal. And the thing is, at the end of the day, right, and I have to I want to put this out to anybody who is in a position where they feel like, I mean, look, I'm an intermediate dancer, and I have no aspirations to be an all-star or a champion. Yes, I'd like to get into advanced because I'd like to do, higher level classes. But
it's hell.
But the thing is, I also, for anyone who is at a level where they feel like they could teach and they could help their community grow, like, just freaking do it. Like, just do it. I mean, I kind of lost my thought here because I'm getting overexcited.
It's hard, but there's two ways of looking at it. So like, where there isn't communities, it's great to have that established. I think one of the problems we're starting to get now, though, is especially in England, and you haven't, maybe you have had a taste of this in Ireland, of people that suddenly say they can teach West Coast swing, and they don't go to workshops, they don't learn. You might see them once a year at a workshop, which is a level 2, and they struggle at it. And then they're out teaching West Coast swing and try and bring people in. So I think there's like, when there is a community already established and you have teachers like that in it, it's not great for the community because it puts people off. I started classes at Backup recently, purely because I went to a class and they were teaching a hammerlock, but he was telling the leaders to twist the followers' arms to make them turn. And so when you've got teaching like that happening, it's like kind of, but then there's places, little pockets where that's kind of almost, you can call it acceptable because there's no West Coast swing in there, and it's getting people and starting the community as up. So sometimes it's kind of needed, but I think what's different in your case and what you've done is you were out going to events and you were out learning West Coast rather than just making it up on the spot,
Yeah, I mean,
what some people do. So
yes, I mean, well,
very
that's what I'm
important.
trying to say. I'm not saying, look, if you've done 6 classes of West Coast swing, become a teacher. That's not what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
I think
What
even
I,
that would be fine as long as you continue learning with it,
yeah, I
as long as
think,
you're still learning yourself.
yeah, I mean, there's certainly people who have stopped learning and have stopped learning like prior to when I began, they have stopped learning.
Yeah.
And who are out there who are teaching things that are just not correct and
Yeah.
dangerous. But what I'm saying is, I think there's a lot of people out there who is now, it's not so much here because here we're a different entity, and I really like I would really, I mean, my goal is that other people become teachers in this country. I do not want to gatekeep this. I absolutely don't want to be the only one running classes, but certainly anyone who wants to run a class, I would rather be help to them. I would rather say, hey, get in touch with this person, go to these events, do privates with these people, and run classes. Yes, do it absolutely, because I mean, I ran a couple of like beginner boot camps a few weeks ago, and we had a really massive influx of people from other styles of dance.
Yeah.
And we had a couple who had driven all the way up from Dublin who are already teachers of salsa. So they know how to break down dance, they know how to articulate how to create movement in your body. And that is the like essentially teaching and doing are two different tasks.
Yeah.
They're very different tasks. They're different. You know, you don't have to get to all-star to be a good teacher.
No.
And sometimes I do have to try to convince myself that, because sometimes I do feel, you know, you do have that that sort of imposter syndrome of,
Yeah.
oh, I'm just an intermediate dancer. But there are people out there who think I'm just an intermediate dancer, or I'm only at this level, and therefore if I try to run a class, people won't respect me because I'm not an all-star. And what I'm trying to say, what I was trying to say earlier, and I kind of went off, is if you're teaching in an area that has no West Coast swing, they don't know what an all-star is.
Yes.
When Andrew came over and I was like, oh my God, we've got an all-star, we've got an all-star, they're like, what? Big deal. Big deal.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, even sometimes, and like I can't believe I'm saying this, but sometimes I say things like Jordan and Tatiana, and they'll go, who? And you're like, what, guys? Have we taught you nothing? Do you not watch the videos I share? But, you know, so you get like, it is really easy to have that sort of like, I'm just this level, and therefore I can't. So there's two sides to that coin. There are always going to be the people who don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
Right. And try to teach and probably make matters worse. And then there's people who are on the other end of the scale who are actually probably at a really good, like a decent level of dancer themselves, and are very capable of teaching others to do that. Like, you know, who can articulate themselves in a way that can break down moves, that can understand connection and how to teach connection and how to teach not just the basics, but don't believe in themselves, don't believe they can do it because they don't have enough points. And
you don't need the points.
that's bullshit. It's
not
bullshit.
About
You don't need the points. Just
without the points, you're not going to be on, you're not going to be up on the doing workshops at big events. But
yeah,
you need the points to do that. Let's be honest about it. I don't think I've ever seen an event that hasn't got an all-star or a high pointed teachers, instructors of workshops. I'm sure there are events that haven't. But
Yeah.
to start classes and to run beginners workshops, it's not needed. All that's
No.
really needed is a passion for it and
Yeah.
the willingness to learn yourself.
And that you are keeping that learning up to date. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I will quite often, because I teach as a leader mostly now. I mean, obviously when Andrew was here, it was lovely. It was like bliss, because I was able to just every so often chirp in while he was teaching, and he was a leader, I was a follower, and I would mix in the class. I would do lead and follow within the class. But now I teach primarily, like 99% of the time, as a leader. So I will always go to a class that's lower level to do like a beginner level class as a leader, to learn more myself, to like educate myself, so that I can then give that out to my class, because if I keep going to just classes of my level as a follower, it's no good to my community. It's great for me, but it's not any good for my community.
I do the same. Like whenever I go to a weekender, I'll always go into a level 1 class. For a couple of reasons. One of the reasons I do it is to go and see what the current kind of level is at level 1, because it's interesting to see what people are like and remind yourself what these beginners are like in this situation. And the other thing is, it's always interesting to listen to how the instructors teach these new beginners, because teaching beginners, absolute beginners, is a complete different skill set to teaching people that have been doing it for 6 weeks, that can do a sugar push left side, right side. They're now level 2. But teaching level 1's really hard, because you've got to get people hooked, and that's the most important thing. Is it's a dance, especially if they've come from dances like modern jive, like what we'd call one-step dances, where there isn't there's only kind of one movement, step, step, step. And going into something where it's more rhythm structured.
Yeah, or no dance experience. I mean, to be honest, the majority of people that are in my class have come with no dance experience. They're not coming from other dances. They've just come from, they're there for different reasons. And that's another thing about probably the UK as a whole, but I can see from the outside looking towards England more so than Scotland, because I think Scotland are closer in how their classes are than England. Teaching people at intermediate level and advanced level is also an entirely different skill to teaching those people at beginner level who are probably coming for a night out.
Yes. It's their Wednesday without the kids.
Yeah, like your bread and butter, for those who run classes know this, your bread and butter people who are coming every week have no inclination to go to an event. They have no inclination to become intermediate or advanced. They come on a Wednesday night as maybe their date night, maybe the night that they get to, have a break from the kids. And so you have to bear a lot of things in mind, especially when you're teaching beginners. You're teaching people who don't understand dance language. One of the things that I often see when people are really high level dancers, that have potentially, like, I didn't dance as a kid. Okay, I didn't pop out of the womb and go to a dance class like a lot of our champions did, because I mean that's why they're champions, because they did this from a very young age. So you have got adults who are coming into your class, and I'm not talking like, yes, you have older adults, like people in their 50s, 60s, but I've also got a lot of young adults. So I've got a lot of people who are in their 20s and their 30s. They don't know what a ronde is. They don't know what third position is. They don't know what a plie is, because they didn't do dance as children. So you also can't use terms.
Yes.
You have to break it down into layman's terms. You have to crack a joke, you
Yep.
know.
The
And
other
I
thing,
guess,
the other
yeah,
thing with beginner dancers that I always find, one of the most common things is trying to teach them not to dance because they all want to
yeah,
dance and be enthusiastic and yeah, I'm dancing. It's like,
yeah,
no, don't dance. I know it's a dance
yeah,
class, don't dance. Worst thing
yeah.
you can
Don't go
do is
crazy.
dance.
I mean, but even I mean, look, I get other. There are Wednesdays that I am sitting. Maybe I've had like a really long day at my normal job that pays me actual money, and I'm trying to put together a class, and I am so tired, and I'm thinking I can't do this. I can't.
Mm.
Oh my god! And I trail myself up to class, and I get there, and I can guarantee within 10 minutes of teaching, my mood is lifted. I am having a great time.
Yeah.
The endorphins are pumping around my body. I get so much joy from teaching. In fact, I probably get more joy from teaching than I do from competing and
Mm.
all that kind of stuff. Don't get me wrong, I love it, but teaching is probably the part of this that really lifts me and like brings me happiness,
Mm.
you know.
Yeah, I'm the same with that. I love teaching the dance
Mm-hmm.
more so than doing it half the time.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it comes to things are frustrating, but teaching
yeah.
it's real nice. And
Yeah.
when you
Oh,
see dancers that progress over the months and weeks as
yeah.
well,
Mm-hmm.
because you've got a couple of dancers there that are obviously now out doing
Obviously, yeah.
um
I
events and
mean,
things.
at the end of the day, I mean, I know one of the questions was that someone had asked was, how do you keep motivated? And honestly, um, Grania is the person that keeps me motivated. After, I mean, during COVID, we were decimated. We're
Mm.
not the only ones. Everyone, a lot of people were the same. So we're in no means different or special, but we definitely really felt the effects. I mean, we didn't start back for a very long time.
Yeah,
In fact, Ronnie and I had been to several events before we even started back classes.
yeah. I think Ireland came
Um,
out a bit a lot later than England, didn't they?
yeah, I mean, and we also went into it faster. Like, so we
Mm.
were like, we were cut off first, and we weren't allowed to do it for a long time. And the venues were a bit funny, and also like, I mean, yeah, people were also a bit wary, and then again, life happened in those
Yeah,
2 years. People found new partners, people had
yeah,
babies, people got married, and coming to dance class just wasn't a priority anymore for those people. So we did lose a lot of people.
mm.
Um, but Grania and I obviously were in touch all the time, and we were busting to just get back at it. And as soon as um, events started back, we were at events. So I think we
Mm.
went to MSO would have been
MSO was
the first one
I
back.
think it was the first one in
Um,
Europe that was back. That was back quite soon after lockdown. Lee done
yeah,
an amazing job. How he pulled that out, I don't know, so quick
yeah.
out of lockdown, being able to get that event going.
And there was, there you could feel like this thing in the air when that happened. It was a real mix of like trepidation. There was a little bit of like, oh, we haven't been doing this in so long, and people were like, oh, I don't want to do a spotlight. Oh my god, I haven't done this. And then also just the sheer joy of being
Yeah.
able to be back at an event, back with people you hadn't seen in so long.
I remember the workshops pretty much didn't happen because the first 15 minutes of workshops, every time they rotated, you were like, hey, how are you doing? And
Yeah,
it
I
was
was just
just
like,
the noise in the
oh,
ballroom every rotation.
it
Uh,
was so lovely. And then we went to Budapest, which was mental.
mm.
And I did actually get COVID, but so did a lot of people. Um, and um, and
Swing
while we
Res
were
didn't happen that
and
year, did it? That
and
was
then
they were
yeah,
still
it
in
didn't. And
they were
then
still in lockdown.
we were
Mad
at
Jam.
And then we went to when we were at the fest, we were like, let's go to Mad Jam. And we just went to Mad Jam. Of course, I had a great time with you guys.
I didn't know. I don't think I knew you guys were going because we were obviously at Mad Jam, and all of a sudden there and you and Grania were, and Harold just suddenly popped up out of the middle of nowhere as well.
Yeah.
So
that kind of got us back on track. But we only started classes after that. We started classes, I think, in the April. No, well, it must have been just before, because that was March, and we started classes back in April. And then, it was really tough for ages. We were turning up to class with 4, 5 people, and it was like, oh. And then our venue decided to put the price up by tripling it, by literally tripling the price. But that was the best thing that could have happened, because we were like, right, that's it, we're heading out, we're getting a new venue. And we got a new venue, and it really has picked up massively. So we moved venue in August, and we have had so many new students since that. And Grania has really developed, not only as like a dancer herself, but her teaching is, I mean, I don't know if you can tell, but I like to talk. So there was a long time when, God love her, she didn't get a word in edgeways, and eventually started to like pull it back and go, no, she needs to find her voice here. So, and she really has. So she has been doing brilliantly teaching, and I mean, we're kind of like we're really excited at the minute. It's the first time in a long time we've been like, we're really excited.
Well, one of my next questions leading on to that was going to be, how do you keep your dancers passionate about it? But knowing yourself and Grania, you're like a little comedy double act.
Yeah.
Of
course.
So that's probably enough for them.
I think to be honest, to keep the students passionate, we have to be passionate. And if you have a teacher that turns up and just can't be bothered, well, they're not going to be bothered. If you turn up grumpy, it's going to reflect. So even though there are those days that I'm tired, I will flip a switch, and then it's like fake it till you make it.
Yes. Yeah.
If you turn up with a smile on your face, which I do, like, I mean, I'm talking 99% of the time, I'm turning up with a smile on my face. I think when we are in class, especially together, like Grania and I do feed off each other a lot. And we are both really passionate about West Coast Swing, and I suspect that radiates from us. I mean, I can't talk about it without smiling. So in my class, I'm smiling, cracking jokes, telling stories. I mean, it is hard to try and get a group of people who, Northern Ireland is very different. Okay, we are told to like not show, don't be showing off, don't show off, and like don't say you're good at things. And I think that, I mean, that is changing. But if you are from this country, there is this little inherent thing of shyness and not expressing yourself. So like we do have a lot of fun in class trying to get the girls to do like styling even. I mean, it's just sometimes hilarious, because I know what I was like when I first started. I was like, I don't want to lift my arm above my head in any way, shape, or form, let alone, do something with my hair. It just wasn't in me.
Yeah.
But it's more in Grania. So she has a little bit of other dance background as well. So it's more in her. It's great to have a girl that can like show the girls some really nice styling. So yeah, I think our passion just really radiates out. And I would say Grania's passion has helped me, because it was demoralizing after COVID. It was really hard. And if she wasn't there, I could have thrown the towel in. Yeah.
Well, that's also leads me into my next question. At what points have you felt like giving up on it, and how did you kind of tackle that?
I mean, to be honest with you, probably just after COVID is the only time I have ever really thought about giving up on it. I've given up on myself a few times, and that's different. Like, as a, you know, as a novice competitor, like I definitely went through the, when am I ever going to win a point? When am
We
I
all
ever
do that. I
when
think
am I ever?
that's a
No, I think it's a
every
rite
time
of
you don't make
passage.
finals, every
Yeah,
time finals
it's a
aren't
rite
made.
of
I think
passage.
that's a
Yeah,
dancer's condition. That is.
absolutely. And I think, you know, in those times as well, I was doing that for the wrong reasons as well. I mean, that again was that time when I believed that if I didn't have points, then people that I was teaching wouldn't have any respect for me.
Mm.
And then when, you know, you get points and you get further on and you realize actually no one in your class actually cares.
No
Because
one knows what points are.
they don't know, they don't care.
No.
They're like, what's a point? Why are you doing this? So, you know, there has to be there was definitely there was definitely a switching point, and it actually happened at MSO one year. One, a good friend from Australia, Lucy, had a stern talking to me, and I think that's when I realized I need to stop doing this for other people and start to just do it for myself. So that was my advice to other people who are chasing points. What are you chasing them for? Like, if you're chasing them for this goal to get to All-Star, you know, and there's a reason behind that. It's like, this is a goal that you have, then that's fine. Like that's completely fine. But if, like, let's be honest, I'm not 25. If I was 25, I might have a different mindset. I might be going, I want to be an all-star, but I'm not 25. I'm 25 plus VAT. So I'm not there anymore. I've kind of got to the point where I'm like, you know what, I am what I am. I'm a teacher. I love my community. I started it so that I would have other people to dance with.
Yeah.
And I continued it because I love this so much that at the moment, I mean, obviously with Grania now, Grania could carry on. Obviously she could. But before Grania came along, if I stopped, I don't know who else would have continued it. I don't know if it would have continued.
Yeah.
And I want to get my goal now is to get it to a stage where I have someone who comes along and goes, I want to teach this. I want to start another class somewhere else, you know, maybe in the same city, but on a different night. And I am all completely for that. Like, I want that to happen. That's my ultimate goal, to have more than my class.
Yeah.
Because one class is not really a community. Like when I was kind of really involved in the Lindy Hop scene, we had like classes every night. You know, we had a class on a Monday, a Tuesday, a Thursday, and there were socials every single weekend, basically. And that is a community that feeds into the classes. Like the socials feed into the classes, and then the classes feed into the socials. And it's this lovely symbiote energy. But we here in Northern Ireland, we're not quite there yet. But what I have to say is that, I mean, certainly after COVID, I feel like the other UK communities have been more, well, they've reached out more.
Yeah.
I mean, prior to COVID, when we had our own event, because we did have Swinterfell, which is a little bit like Swinterviews. Sounds very similar. Saying nothing.
Every swing related.
Swinter, so when we had Swinterfell, which was a great event, we had a massive loads of people basically from Scotland. I mean, a huge community. Melanie Boyle, Stroke Love, brought a whole pile of people over. I mean, those guys were phenomenal. There was, I think, actually in the last Swinterfell, the 2019, or well, 2020 actually, there was probably more Scottish people at that event than there was people from Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
So it was really nice, and we done a choreography thing. So we had like us over here in Belfast did the choreography, and then Andrew went over and taught it to the Scottish guys, and then we all pulled together and we did the choreography together at the event, and that was great. That was really like that was the height, and it is such a shame that COVID happened, because that was when we were like, we're on a roll, and then COVID happened.
So do you think there's anything the wider community could do to help encourage and support growth in areas where there isn't any West Coast swing at the moment?
I mean, it's probably easier to do in England because there's way more obvious, and obviously in Scotland, maybe in Scotland too. I know that in Scotland, even though there's more communities, they're quite far apart.
They're quite far apart. There's huge areas in the UK where there's no West Coast as well.
Yeah,
there's pockets where there's a few classes within a 10-mile radius, and then there's areas where there's a 100-mile radius and no West Coast.
Yeah.
I think everyone's in the same situation, whether you're in an area in, I don't know, up in the UK, up in say Northwest, where there might not be much West Coast.
I think what people have to do is that people have to be probably a little bit so for example, I have a girl from Londonderry who had reached out to me. That's 100 miles north, right? And she was actually at MSO, and sadly this year is the one year, the first year in all the years that I've been going to MSO from the beginning that I missed, and she was there. So she did the 0 to Hero track, and she has contacted me, and I am going to take myself up to Londonderry and work with her a little bit. Now, I've never met her before. I don't know what level she's at. I don't know what her plans are, but certainly what I would love is that if this girl had the same passion I had and went, well, there's no West Coast swing here, I'm going to build a class. Happy days. I will be in the car. I will drive up. I will support that. We have a girl who comes up from Dublin. Well, I think she's just outside Dublin. She's come up to our boot camps. Grania and I have went to Dublin, and she has had like a group of her friends and people that she knows who are interested in West Coast swing get together for workshops, and we've driven to Dublin to do workshops there. Now, my of course, what I would love is for her to go, I'm going to start a class in Dublin and I'm going to teach it. Amazing, So that's what, like, for people who are teaching that are in those areas that have, lots of different, classes 10 miles down the road, or, I think Lee Easton was saying that, next year, 2024, there's literally going to be a class in, I think, the London area every night of the week.
Yeah.
I mean, how cool is that? That's the dream, right? That could happen everywhere, but it takes community leaders and people who are passionate, not about making money, not about like,
you don't make money.
Not about the do-re-mi, but passionate about making this go further. Because look, we've got things like TikTok, thanks to Harold and his millions and millions of views on his TikToks, and I mean lots of other people too, but we'll big Harold up. I mean, I purposely do ask people, where did you find out about us? And so many of them say, I saw this on TikTok.
Yeah.
And then I looked for it online. So
it's crazy how that's happened. Like mainly the later part of this year. Like
yeah.
we have the same thing of people have just suddenly found it on TikTok.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a little story about how crazy TikTok is. Leo Lorenzo was over in the UK doing a workshop, and we were going for lunch with him out into Camden for lunch. And as we got to the door, there was this group of people, mainly girls, young girls, like, "Hi, Leo, hi." And he's like, "Hey, you here for the classes?" And they're like, "No, we've just come to see you." Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
They're having photos with him. So these dancers now are getting followers that aren't dancers, and
yeah,
they're
but
looking for classes, and
they're looking for classes, and then they come. I mean, the amount of messages I get on a weekly basis to my page, because my page exists and it's being monitored, and I'm answering it.
Yeah.
But they're from other places, and I always say, if you can get a few people together, I'll come and do a class for you. I'll come and do a boot camp, or come to Belfast and do a boot camp with me up in Belfast. So my hope would be that just one person gets bitten by the bug enough to start their own class, so that maybe in another 5 years, like I'm not gonna be this time next year, but maybe in another 5 years, we have got in Northern Ireland as well as the rest of the UK more classes in more cities. So it's not just my class in Belfast, it's maybe a class down the road in Lisburn, a class in Ballymena, a class, somewhere. And
I think it's very important as
well feed into things like socials.
When you've got more classes and things running in the areas, it's really important that they communicate and they get on and they work together.
Yeah. I mean, there's no point in, because I came into the West Coast Swing community from the Lindy Hop community, there wasn't just Swing Belfast. Swing Belfast certainly did the most classes. We had them on a Monday, Tuesday, and a Thursday, but there was also bellhoppers, there was other crowds like vintage dance, all these different classes, and multiple people went to multiple classes. Like, so we had people who would come to our class, say on a Tuesday night, but would go to the bellhoppers on another night. And that's great, that's fine, because it wasn't like we were never teaching the same stuff. Like they because Lindy Hop is such a historical vintage dance and is very much, it's danced very much now how it was then. I mean, obviously there has been developments and changes, but not the way West Coast. I mean, if you look at West Coast Swing 10 years ago, it's not the same as it is now. But Lindy Hop is, because it is historical, right? It's vintage, and people like to stay really close to the roots of it. So, you had this huge, big community who were all being served by different teachers and different groups who were teaching. But then you would also have one Saturday night would be the mess around, which was our social night, and then you would have the bellhoppers would do a social night, and then someone else would do a social night. So there was a social night every week. Yeah. So you were never bored. You could always go to a dance. Now for West Coast Swing, we did have a monthly social dance, but when we started back, we just didn't have enough people. We didn't have a core. I mean, we were talking about like 20 minutes in, and you will have danced with everyone. So, so hopefully our aim in 2024 is to start up our socials again, a monthly social, to have monthly workshops back. I mean, we've already started. We started last month with boot camps, which were really successful. We had an intermediate workshop for the first time since we started back. And, you know, I want to have teachers come over again. So we have guest teachers coming, and they're not just listening to me. Because that is going to then, I think that keeps up the passion, you know, when you bring over a teacher that is new to them and is exciting, and it's, you know, it becomes an event rather than, you know, myself and Grania teaching another workshop. Because
I think teachers that you bring over, they just have to be good teachers. Again, it goes back to not having to have points. An example of this is we've got a US pro coming over to do a class for us next year, and they're a champion level dancer, very well known. Like everyone who's danced West Coast Swing for a level of time will know them. And mention their name in the class, you get a blank. And they're a champion dancer, and they're like, of country dancing. No, of West Coast Swing. So it's like it could be anyone. But
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, people also, you know, when you're a leader of a community, for example, when you're the person that is thinking about what's best for my students, what's best for my community, it does not have to be the Jordan and Tatianas of the world. It doesn't have to be those guys who come over. It just needs to be someone that's not you.
Yes.
It just needs to be someone who is going to come in with a slightly different take. I mean, I have stood in a workshop more times than I'd like to admit when another teacher has taught something that I have been teaching for, say, 3 weeks. And someone in the class goes, "Oh, I never heard that before." And inside I'm thinking, I have taught you that. I've said that, but they've said it a different way. And all of a sudden it clicks with the person that, you know, I've been telling them for 3 weeks. But so that is that advantage of bringing in someone different. They'll always have a slightly way of doing something, a slightly different way of saying something, or doing something that helps people click, because maybe your way, they've heard it, and it's just like, it doesn't matter how many times, they need to hear it from someone else. So I think bringing new teachers in, socials, I mean, if we build it, they will come. That's what I keep saying.
They will.
I'm telling myself that. Yes.
So who inspires you as a dancer?
So I have a couple of different things for this, because as a dancer, like, I feel like, well, I definitely don't want to look to, I mean, I see some young people, I mean, honestly, people like Savannah and Geo, I can't say his name, I'm sorry, I've butchered it. I adore their dancing. I mean, I was at Global Swing at the weekend, and I sat on Sunday night in a corner. It was near the end of the night, and they put a couple of songs on because he was DJing, and they were dancing like 2 feet away from me, and it was just like, I can't even describe how cool it was. It was just to see them, like, she's so fast, she's so reactive there, and they're so in sync. I mean, it was amazing. It was, honestly, I love watching pros late night
night dancing, but
because
it's so different from watching it on YouTube. They're so more relaxed. It's so
much better than even dancing in pumps, because there's always that little tiny bit of tension or nerves or something in comps. But they were just in front of me. I also watched Jakub dance with her name's one out of my head. Anyway, another girl, and again, phenomenal, just to sit and watch them. But I would say when I watch videos and when I see stuff that's really inspiring, I love Tori Zawi. I think I just, everything she does looks so simple and so graceful and so everything. She is an inspiration for me. I mean, I wish I could dance like her in my dreams.
So do I. Hold that thought. Carry on
Your
talking. I'm just plugging my laptop in. I forgot to do it, and now it's giving me a low
battery's dying.
but I am still here.
So I would say inspiring, though, in a different way, is the likes of Olivia and Virginie, because they're inspirational in a different way. That the way they've built up the French community, the way they have, you see them at events with juniors and how they build up those juniors. And I mean, I know obviously they've got their own kids, and obviously that is something that's really dear to them. But when you see how they are so proud of those kids and how encouraging they are. But I love their classes. I've always loved how Olivier builds his classes. Like he has a very specific way of building his workshops, which just makes so much sense. And also, I love to steal his jokes. Sorry, Olivier, but I steal your jokes and I tell them in my class because they haven't heard them. Then I tell them and they think they're mine, and it's great. So I love how he brings humor into a class, even when it's like a higher level class. The weekend I was doing a level 4 class, and it was a challenging move, but there was still humor in that class. And I think that's what we all have to remember, that out of the thousands of people, and there are thousands of people that do this dance, there is a really tiny, like the triangle is like this. And up at that top end is that little tiny proportion of people who go to events and who aspire to be the champion and who will get to champion. That's even tinier. The majority of people who are going to a weekly class or who watch it on YouTube or TikTok are going because they have just been inspired by something and want to learn how to do it. And people like Olivia and Virginie, I think, bring that element into a class, but also from the bottom up, like right up at the top, there's still the humor. And people should also, people need to remember, especially people who are learning this and who are at probably the beginning of their journey, or maybe they've been doing it for years, right? And they just can't get the timing right, or there's just like something about their whip that just is off. You don't have to be really good at something to enjoy it as a hobby. You just have to do it.
That's what I keep on saying to my class. Is one of the things I'm really trying to drill into them at the moment is it doesn't matter how technical we can make it. I mean, I've done an hour's workshop just on the handhold, just on this, like a whole hour just on this. And so you can get as technical as you want with it, but you got to have fun. Have fun. That's the primary thing. I think it's important that teachers, and I've done workshops with Olivier, and it's like real fun.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong.
Enjoyable.
If you're having a one-on-one lesson and you're prepping for the US Open, when you're doing a routine, there's no time for fun, guys.
No time for messing about. That's serious stuff. Yeah.
But that is such a small percentage of the people that do this dance, and really the goal is to have thousands of people around the UK do it. Have thousands of people that are at classes every week and at socials every weekend.
But an example of that pyramid, I was looking the other day. In the UK, I think I counted. We worked out there's something like 10. When you consider that the divisions are pretty much split in two of newcomer, novice, and intermediate, and then the higher levels of advanced all-star champion, you have the two separate divisions really. And then progression within them divisions. There was, I think we counted 10 leaders in the UK that are in that higher tier, which
Mhm.
out of the thousands and thousands of people doing it in the UK is a very, very, very small percentage are
Yeah,
in that upper
yeah.
division.
And
Um,
the ones that are in that upper division are probably traveling like
mhm,
at least twice a month. You know, they're at something, or they're at a social every week, or um they
privates,
probably teach in
privates.
privates, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
To get to that level takes really hard work. It
Mhm.
takes natural talent, first of all. There's, you know, you could get into the whole nature versus nurture, but there's got to be a bit of natural talent to get to the top
Mhm.
level. You've got to have the means to do it. You've got to have the time and the money,
Mhm.
and not everyone has that. And then
No.
you have also got to have the work ethic to get to that. You
Mhm.
got to go to, if you want to be Table and Nicole, you've got to go to the gym.
Yeah.
You've got to do yoga.
Yeah.
You've got to do Pilates. You've got to be acrobatic. You've got to do all those things. It's not just, well,
At the end of the day,
I'll go to my
this is
local dance every week and then I'll beat them. It's like,
this is
no, that's
the
not how it works.
this is West Coast Swing's a dance sport. And
Yeah,
the sports side of it is it's a funny sport, and it really is a sport. It's a funny
yeah,
sport because we have the social side, which is unlike any other sport in the world.
yeah,
But in the competitive side, it's a bit like if you wanted to be a football player and you wanted to play for Chelsea, you're not going to do that by kicking the ball around the
no,
park once a
no,
week. You need to
no,
go and train. You need to get
yeah,
fitness. You need to eat well. You need to do
yeah,
all of these things that it's not just like, oh, I'm not getting anywhere, I'm not scoring points. It's the
yeah. I
amount of
mean,
work that really
I
has to go in.
I
And you
know,
have
and
to start at a young age, really.
it,
Like
it does,
it's
it
it's the
does. I
brutal
mean,
truth of it. You're not going to become a professional football player at the age of at my age of like 24.
35,
You know?
35. I mean,
Yeah.
when I was younger, even though I don't have a dance background, I was a figure skater, and I was a competitive figure skater, and I trained
Mm,
6 days a week, and I was out of bed at 6 a.m. every morning before school. I was at the ice rink for at least 2 hours a day and before school, and then I went from school straight back to the ice rink, and I was at the ice rink until 8 p.m. every single night,
mm.
bar Wednesday night. That was a Wednesday and sometimes a Sunday. And I trained my backside off. And I started when I was 9, and I started for fun, but my personality clearly is I can't do this for fun. I must be the best. I must do better. So, I spent my childhood being coached,
Mm.
and training and cross training. We had to do off ice things. We had to do things in the gym, and we had to eat well. We had to sleep well. Um, there was literally nothing about mental health back then, but I did that as a child. I know what it takes to get to, like, not quite, I didn't quite get to the Olympics, but I was on my way. I gave it up for stupid reasons, but I was doing that for like 6 years.
Mm.
So I did the training and the hard work and the tears and the, blisters and the going over to a competition in Blackpool and completely going blank on the ice by yourself and having to skate off it in tears because you forgot your program. I've been there and I've done that. So as an
I've done a
adult,
routine like that
as
once.
as I as an adult, I don't want to relive that trauma of doing that. So, you know, that's not me anymore. I don't want to train like that. I do this. I mean, it's beyond a hobby. It's not a hobby. It's
Mm.
it's beyond that. But um, essentially, that's what it started out as.
Yeah.
And for the majority of people, that's what it is. It's their weekly hobby. And as teachers, community leaders, and even fellow people in the classes, that's what it is. It's it's inspiring the people even in your own class enough to say to their friend, hey, I go to this class and it's really good fun. And, you know, I'm not very good at this, but I have a bloody good time every week. Or, you know, I can't quite get it all, but, you know, I don't really care because I have fun. Because, you know, they are the bread and butter. They're the people that come back all like, they're the one that stick with you for years and support you. I mean, I have people, like I have a couple of people in my class, Mike and Celine, who have been coming to the class from the very beginning, and they rarely miss a week of classes, and they support everything I do. They support Grania, and you know, it's people like that that you need in your community. You know, they're the heart of it. They're the heart. The champions and the all-stars are amazing, but they're the heart.
Yeah, 100%. So what are your favorite events? What events are you looking forward to this year coming?
So always I just love UK events because I feel a little bit isolated over in my little island here. I always feel like I'm part of a community when I go to a UK event.
Yeah.
And
you're one of us.
It took a while for that to happen. But hey, a couple of gins in, and I'm everybody's friend. So I love MSO Detonation. Swing Res, obviously. I love Scottish events, really, especially because that community has supported my community as well so much. I mean, Melanie has been such a support for years. And, you know, going over to Scotland just feels like going home. It really does. I love it. But when it comes to like traveling a little bit further afield, I would have to say that Swingterfell, not Swingterfell, that was my event. It was obviously my favorite. But Swingsterland is probably one of my favorite events. And I'm gutted I'm not going this year. Well, next year, technically. Because I couldn't get a ticket. But I have, until that ended because of COVID, I was at every single event, every one. It is, look, it's in Switzerland, it's a little bit expensive, don't get me wrong, it's not cheap, but you can do it cheaply. You don't have to stay in the 25-hour hotel. You can stay in a cheaper one down the road. The ballroom is like this really cool dance studio. It's a small event. It's not massive. It has limited capacity, and therefore it can only be a certain size. But it is such a feel-good event. I mean, I'm sure like Yuri has really big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
Because he's taken it on now from Linda and names. I'm gonna blame the menopause. It's menopause brain. But it will, I'm sure it will still have the same heart and that same feel because the community there, again, it's a really lovely community-led event. You can really feel it. They bring sandwiches and they bring buns, and the bar is a bit of a shebang, as we like to call it. It's like it's in the dance studio. It's they're going and buying the drink and stuff. And the pros all seem to let loose a little bit.
Yeah.
Like some of the Sunday night parties there stay Sunday, always stay Sunday. The Sunday night parties there have been the best parties I've ever been to.
Sunday nights are always the best at any event. People that go home early on a Sunday,
no,
always the best nights. Sunday.
I know.
All the stress is out the way. So to finish off, what's the funniest thing that's ever happened to you in your dance career? What's your one story?
Lee, what's not funny, really? I don't know if I could put a pin on it. Look, most people know that I do suffer a little bit from bladder problems, and that look, I had a couple of really big babies, and they were massive. They came out with their school bags, and when this happened, it wasn't funny. What was funny was when I told the story to a table full of people at like 6 a.m. at breakfast. At UK Champs one time, I was dancing to a very fast song. It was Bruno Mars. And the guy I was dancing with, I don't know who he is. I can't remember. At one point in the song, he literally look, he dropped me into the splits. Do I look like I can do the splits? No. Could I do the splits? Also, no. Did I potentially wet myself? Yes. And yeah, so that, while it was traumatic at the time, is funny now. Because yeah, that happened to me. I had to get up and vacate. I checked. I didn't leave a puddle. I did check, but I had to vacate mid-dance, the dance floor. So there's that. Feel free to keep this in or feel free to not. I don't care. Everyone knows. Fine.
It's all right. I won't tell anyone.
Well,
Secret safe here.
Yeah. So there's that. Yeah, most of it is just funny. I mean, I don't go to events to win prizes because I don't win prizes. I go to events for the crack. So
you're always the life and soul of
that's very nice. It's very nice of you to say so. I mean, I try my best. I try. Yeah, I think there's definitely a stand-up comedian like really deep down trying to get out. She's never coming out, but you know, she's there telling Olivia.
No, she normally comes out a little bit more after a few.
Yeah, absolutely. Drink. I haven't even had gin when that happened at UK Champs. Oh yeah, trauma. But fun, you know, it's a funny story. It's a story I like to tell people. It makes them relaxed. It's like, you know, if Sharon wet herself, how bad could it be?
How bad can it be?
You just got to think that when you're competing. At least I didn't wet myself. Bingo.
What's your next event? Where you booked up for the next?
Well, it's Swing Res. It is
Swing Res
in January.
That's looking to be an awesome event this year.
Yes, yes, I hope so. It will be. Of course, it will be.
It will be. Yeah, and I've been working on the schedule for it, and so I've had some privy to some inside information. But it's looking good. Looking good. There's a huge amount of pros on there. I think there's some pros that haven't been announced as well. That are coming on board. There's a lot of all-stars and things.
You can tell me after.
No one will know. No one will know. But there's a lot of all-stars and things that attend it. On the roster. Yeah, it's gonna be a good event. Looking forward to it.
Do you know what? It's a great event because there is a lot of pros go. There is, but and you know, it's a really hard job being a pro. It's really tough. You're teaching like quite a few hours during the day, and I don't think people realize how mentally tiring that can be. You're maybe then doing like a pro Jack and Jill or a late night show or something.
Often with jet lag.
Normally, quite often with jet lag. On top of that, you've probably done like, you know, 10 private lessons in a row. And then, you know, people are like, oh, but why are they not out social dancing or whatever? The pros always social dance at Swing Res. I mean, PJ, I've had some of my best like late night dances with PJ at Swing Res because he's always out social dancing.
Yeah.
So many, and it's not like this whole big people standing queues because that's horrendous, but people they ask you, it's a really nice atmosphere. It's a really lovely hotel that's right in the center.
I mean, I've not gone to, I think my first Swing Res was 2018.